The foreign exchange market, with a daily turnover of $8 trillion, is the ultimate measure of the relative economic prospects of nations. Relative because exchange rates are the price of one currency for another. What this means is that to make money in the foreign exchange market, you have to pick both the winner and the loser correctly. As the first half of 2023 draws to a close, which were the best performing currencies in the world? And what do they tell us about the changing fortunes of different countries in a polarizing world? You might be surprised by the answers. Hi, I'm David Wu, a former Wall Street strategist with a 20-year track record of making actionable predictions about major global change. In real estate, they said it's all about location, location, and location. It is no different for countries. Geography matters for the destiny of countries. To prosper and grow, it is important for countries to be in the right neighborhood. Well, more importantly, have the right neighbors. At the halfway mark of 2023, the region with the best overall currency performance is the Americas. The 5 most liquid currencies in the Americas went up on average 6.7% against the US dollar versus staying flat for the 5 most liquid currencies in Europe and a decline of 3.7% against the dollar of the 5 leading currencies in Asia. The currencies in the Americas did so well that they took the top 3 spots in the ranking of the 20 major global currencies. This is the first time ever that the Mexican peso, the Brazilian real, and the Chilean peso were the world's top currency performers at the same time. The strong performance of these currencies is the result of many factors, but geography is a common theme. Geography means that they're insulated from the global polarizing forces. These countries could not be further away from the war in Ukraine. As a result, the war has had little impact on their economies. Conflicts are expensive, and Latin America as a whole has refused to get involved in the Ukraine war. Mexico and Brazil have not given in to pressure to supply arms to Ukraine. Taking a neutral position in the war and being far away from the conflict means that Latin American countries don't have to be sucked into the expensive global arms race. Instead of spending money on new fighter jets, they can build new schools and new hospitals. These countries also have the advantage of being far away from China, but closer to the US. The de-risking or decoupling between the US and China has proved to be a boon for these countries. This is most obvious for Mexico, that has become a major destination for friendshoring of production of American firms. This is probably why Mexico's export in the 3 months to February grew 8%, while China's export fell 8%. What's more, direct foreign investments into China are declining, while FDI into Mexico are surging. Poetic justice? The rise of China as the world's factory hurt Mexico more than any other country. China's entry into the World Trade Organization sent the Mexican peso into a 20-year structural bear market against the Chinese RMB. But the rebound of the peso against the RMB since the start of 2022, as exodus from China gained momentum, suggests that Mexico's fortunes are finally turning. For Brazil and Chile, China is their largest export market. Despite China's fading recovery, copper and iron ore prices are still higher than where they were at the end of last year. In the case of Chile, an increase in lithium production has offset the sharp decline in lithium prices this year. China may be Brazil's largest export market, but the US is the largest market for Brazil's value-added manufactured goods. In 2022, bilateral trade in goods between the US and Brazil went up 26%. This year, data are showing continued growth. Lastly, the fact that the US economy continues to defy predictions of a recession is good news for all of the neighbors of the US. The result of all these different factors is that the export growth of Mexico, Brazil, and Chile has held up much better than that of most other major economies. This has lent important support to their currencies. Another reason for the strong currency performance of Mexico, Brazil, and Chile is the fact that their real interest rates are very high. Indeed, they are among the highest in the world right now. High real interest rates have made their currencies attractive, for the same reason that low and negative real interest rates have made the Turkish lira and the Argentinian peso the worst performing currencies in the world so far this year. But surely high real interest rates are a burden for the economy. In a recent video, I talked about the fact that many developing countries have done a better job than their developed counterparts in dealing with the global inflation shocks of the past 3 years. Brazil started raising rates already in the beginning of 2021, with Mexico just behind. Chile didn't get going until 2022, but once it started raising rates, it never looked back. In my view, the central banks of these countries were ahead of the Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank, and definitely the Bank of England in recognizing the risk of inflation shocks becoming entrenched. This likely is a reflection of the history of these countries. The Central Bank of Chile has an inflation mandate, and the governor recently warned a constitutional drafting committee that adding a full employment mandate could conflict with price stability. I think she's right. The main mandate of the Central Bank of Mexico is to maintain the stability of the purchasing power of its currency. It has an inflation target of 3% and has been reluctant to cut interest rates without inflation moving back into the 2 to 4% tolerance band. The primary mandate of the Central Bank of Brazil is also to ensure the stability of the currency's purchasing power. Importantly, in 2021, Brazilian Congress granted technical, operational, administrative, and financial autonomy to the Central Bank of Brazil. This independence should give the central bank even more autonomy in the pursuit of low inflation. With globalization giving way to decoupling, the forces of disinflation are in open retreat. In a way, the monetary policy settings of Brazil, Mexico, and Chile mean that they're well positioned to deal with a higher inflationary global environment. This is no doubt a positive for their currencies. By the way, the fact that these countries have high real interest rates right now means that they also have more room to cut interest rates when the next global economic recession starts. This is also why their bonds are among the most attractive to own right now. The biggest problem facing the Latin American economies is their relatively low productivity and low productivity growth. In this respect, it is a positive development that the relationship between these countries and China is no longer solely about commodities. China has become a major source of direct foreign investments for Latin America. Chinese money has been funding energy and infrastructure projects like roads, ports, and highways. China is funding renewable energy projects, including Chile's Punta Sierra wind farm. But even more important is the fact that China has become a source of affordable technologies. Huawei, banned in the US, helped Mexico's government build the largest public Wi-Fi network in Latin America. Last year, Huawei launched a 2-year 5G city pilot project in Curitiba, Brazil. Huawei is building cloud centers in Mexico, Brazil, and Chile. The Chinese are offering cost-effective solutions to help these countries upgrade their digital infrastructure. The key word here is cost-effective. Remember, 45% of Latin Americans do not have access to the internet, and around 45 million of them live in areas without coverage, networks, communication services, and other basic infrastructure. Investment in connectivity will be critical to raise productivity growth, bridging the digital divide, and reducing inequalities. A recent study shows that a 10% increase in mobile internet penetration has the potential to increase GDP by 1.2%, while a 10% increase in a country's digitalization can generate 1.9% in GDP growth. The Chinese have realized that the only way they can beat Washington's containment strategy is by making friends with the global south, by sharing their economic model, including technologies, with the developing world. Whether this will prove to be the right strategy for China, it is meanwhile helping Latin American economies to have a shot at leveling the technological playing field with a global north. If you got something out of this program, please hit like and subscribe to my free YouTube channel. If you want to learn more about my investment strategy, come visit us at davidwuunbound.com. Thank you for listening.